Welcome everyone to the Strengthening Partnerships for Students with Disabilities webinar series. Our session topic is Navigating the Special Education Procedural Safeguards, Part 1. This presentation is brought to you by the California Department of Education, Special Education Division, and the Seeds of Partnership Project. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedules to join us. As we get started, I want to point out that we have a few language options for this session. American Sign Language, we will be spotlighting, and translated captions, which can be accessed by finding the Show Captions icon at the bottom of the Zoom menu. Select the arrow. This opens up a menu where you select the translation button. If it's turned blue, then it's active. Then on the menu, choose My Caption Language, where you select the language you'd like the caption to display. For example, my speaking language is listed as English, and I'm choosing to display Spanish captions. Now I'm honored to introduce our California Department of Education Director of Special Education Division, Dr. Rachel Heenan.
Thank you, Robin. Welcome, California Educational Partners. My name is Rachel Heenan. I am the California Department of Education Special Education Division Director, as Robin stated. Thank you for joining us for this third session of Strengthening Partnerships for Students with Disabilities webinar series. It brings me great pleasure to welcome both new and returning participants. The first two sessions we had in this series focused on family engagement in support of student learning. We first established a strong foundation by focusing on family educator partnerships centered on trust and focused on student learning and well-being. Then we built next on the foundation by focusing on practical ideas, examples, and resources to support deeper relationships focused on student learning and well-being. This now brings me to today's focus, navigating the special education Procedural Safeguards, Part 1. This latest two-part series is presented in collaboration with our State Special Education Local Plan Area, or SELPA, the SELPA Association's Parent Engagement Committee, in addition to the West End and South Orange County SELPAs. This series is designed to help parents and families, as well as educators, deepen their knowledge and understanding of the legal protections and rights within the educational system. This will enable everyone to continue strengthening their effective support of their students. Today, we'll focus on understanding key procedural safeguards such as parent participation in the decision-making process regarding their child's education, consent, assessments, and eligibility. We'll then build on this foundational knowledge in part 2 of the series during our next session. As I shared in our previous sessions, partnerships between families, parents, caregivers, educational leaders, and practitioners are essential. This is why the California Department of Education Special Education Division and Seeds of Partnership are consistently inviting new collaborative partners into the space so that we may provide you the most relevant and up-to-date knowledge, skills, and resources so that you can continue to support your students. As I've stated before, the CDE Special Ed Division recognizes the critical role families play in the educational success of their children, and we continue to strengthen our outreach and support systems to further cultivate these critical partnerships through our many initiatives, such as the development of our Constituent Support Office and statewide webinars, such as today's. As educators, we know how pivotal it is to develop and maintain partnerships with families we serve. It is so beneficial for both the individual student and for communities that they're part of. I know everyone here will continue to develop and maintain these partnerships we have established with each other and continue to utilize the knowledge, skills, and resources that you've attained to support your students. Again, I'd like to really thank Robin Ryan from Seeds of Partnership and my team at CDE for continuing to develop this webinar series within the department. I'd also like to thank our state SELPA Association partners who developed this two-part series. And a special thank you to Dr. Scott Turner, the SELPA Association Chair, for leading the association's work. An enormous thank you to everyone who's here today for taking this unique opportunity to partner and learn with us. So again, thank you and welcome to the Strengthening Partnerships for Students with Disabilities webinar series.
Thank you, Dr. Heenan. My name's Robin Ryan, and I'm the coordinator of Seeds of Partnership Project. And with me assisting in the session are colleagues from Seeds of Partnership and the California Department of Education. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the Seeds of Partnership, we want to make sure you know who we are and what we do. We are a longtime partner and technical assistance project funded by the California Department of Education out of the Sacramento County Office of Education. We provide training and develop resources and partner on initiatives in and around all things family support, including assistance with compliance improvement monitoring, coordinated support with the family empowerment centers. And so to learn more, please visit our website at www.seedsofpartnership.org. We are excited to bring forward the webinar series because we do believe in the power of sharing knowledge and experiences. And our goal is to create a space where educators and other professionals and families of children and young adults with disabilities can come together to learn and connect with effective strategies, resources, and insights that support students with disabilities. We hope the sessions will inspire meaningful conversations, foster collaboration, and highlight the voices of parents, students, and educators who support to make a difference in students' lives. Our topics are generated from years of direct input from both families and educators in California. And we look forward to adding additional areas highlighted by those of you that are joining us in these sessions and tuning in to recordings and completing the feedback form at the end of the sessions. We are recording the session, which will be available on our Seeds of Partnership website in the e-learning gallery, where you can also find upcoming events. And then when we're speaking about different links, we are dropping those into the chat. Our session today, Navigating the Special Education Procedural Safeguards, Part 1, will focus on understanding procedural safeguards, why they matter for families and schools, procedural safeguards overview of some of the sections, including parent participation, consent, assessment, learn effective strategies and actionable solutions to address key concerns frequently raised by parents in those sections, and some helpful resources of organizations that support students and families. Our spotlight from the field in the session that we're partnering with, and as Dr. Heenan already shared a preview of, is through the Special Education Local Plan Area, or SELPA, the State SELPA Association. We have Chair Dr. Scott Turner to highlight SELPA and their Family Engagement Committee representatives from West End and South Orange County SELPA. They will lead in the procedural safeguards portion of our session, and also presenting with us in the session are representatives from the California Family Empowerment Centers, which is Rowell Family Empowerment Center of Northern California. So it's important also for us to note that this presentation is intended for informational purposes, and it is not legal advice. So the next several slides, we will introduce you to collaborative partners and co-presenters for this session, which are SELPA, Family Empowerment Centers, and Rowell Family Empowerment Center. So providing us a micro brief overview of SELPA is Dr. Scott Turner, who is the chair of the State SELPA Administrators of California and SELPA Director of the East San Gabriel Valley SELPA. Welcome, Scott.
Good morning. Thank you, Robin. So my name is Scott Turner. I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of the East San Gabriel Valley SELPA. We are a multi-district SELPA in Eastern Los Angeles County. And this year, I also have the privilege of serving as the chair of the SELPA Administrators of California, a nonprofit association made up of all the SELPAs throughout California. I too just want to briefly thank the California Department of Education, Special Education Division, Seeds of Partnership, Rowell Family Empowerment Center, and our Parent Engagement Committee co-chairs from the West End SELPA and South Orange County SELPA, who will be sharing more about their work and their representative SELPAs. We're going to provide just a brief history, as Robin mentioned, of SELPAs. And so, as many of you know, this year we're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, otherwise known as IDEA. But California actually has a much rich history in special education that dates back much farther than 50 years. Specifically, our state had state schools for the deaf and blind dating back to the late 1800s. And categorical programs serving students long before IDEA throughout California. We know that those programs were not consistent across our state, and leading into the civil rights movement and later into the late 60s and 70s, a lot of light was shined on our individuals with disabilities living across our country. And reports from Congress found that upwards of 1.8 million school-age children and upwards of 4 million students were either completely shut out of public education, that 1.8 million number, or receiving inadequate services, the 4 million number. And so in response to that, Congress enacted the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and our state quickly followed in 1977 with requiring school districts to become part of SELPAs. And so SELPAs are special education local plan areas that ensure no matter a student's zip code, that there are significant resources available to meet each student's individual needs. And so today there's 137 SELPAs across California. Approximately 90 are multi-district SELPAs, where districts combine together to be a multi-district SELPA and provide for all students within their geographic region. We have 40 single district SELPAs, and the remainder are charter school only SELPAs in the state of California. If you want more information about SELPAs, you could visit our website, selpa.info. That is the nonprofit association's website that has information about SELPAs throughout California. Also, a lot of resources and trainings that we do throughout the year. CDE also has a website with information that's on this slide related to SELPAs. And we'd always encourage you to reach out to your local SELPA. If you have trouble identifying who that local SELPA is, there are resources on our website, but you could also look at the top of any individualized education program within the state of California, and the name of the SELPA would be at the top of the IEP. You could also work with your Family Empowerment Center, or even your procedural safeguards will indicate what SELPA a student is being served in. SELPAs are resources for families. They can reach out with questions and seek support and guidance. We also have our community advisory committees that are made up primarily of parents of students with disabilities that often provide trainings and supports to families throughout the year. So we would encourage any families or any educational partners to reach out to your local SELPA. I just want to commend everyone that's here today, not only the presenters, but all the families and other educational partners that are here for this important series. And I will kick it back over to Robin Ryan.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much. So a brief overview of the Family Empowerment Centers, or FECs. California has 41 regions. Each region has a nonprofit organization that receives FEC grant funding through the California Department of Education to serve their region. FECs are supported through the California Department of Education and the Seeds of Partnership. The Family Empowerment Centers serve parents of families of children and young adults with disabilities between the ages of 3 to 22 in California through the following: specialized training, peer-to-peer support, access to information and resources, help parents better understand their child's educational and developmental needs, and provide resources for families on the individual education program process, and also promoting positive relationships and effective communication. We invite you all to visit the FEC website, www.californiafamilyempowermentcenters.org, to learn more and find the center in your region. Part of our role with Seeds is to promote the partner and partner with the FECs as they work with children and families. So we look forward to highlighting them in future sessions. Two of our co-presenters today, Program Director Elena Bramble and Lead Consultant Monica Toma, are here from Rowell Family Empowerment Center of Northern California. And before we jump into our topic today, we wanted to have them introduce themselves and share just for a few minutes about their parent center. Elena?
Hello, my name is Elena Bramble. I am the program director here at Rowell Family Empowerment. We are from the very, as you can see on the map, the very far northern part of California. We are in Shasta County. We've been around since 1995 and serve for our FEC. We have several different programs, but our Family Empowerment Center does 6 different counties in Siskiyou, Shasta, Trinity, Tehama, Glenn, and Butte counties. That was a lot for the ASL. So yeah, we've been around for a long time. We look forward to presenting to you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for spotlighting Rowell, Elena. And so our topic today is procedural safeguards. And to find a copy of this procedural safeguards online, you can visit the links added in the chat or visit the QR code shown here on the screen. The first one is for English version, and the second is an access the translated versions. As part of Chapter 4.3 Education Code, Section 56415, the Family Empowerment Center contact information is now included in the procedural safeguards document. These were last updated by the California Department of Education in March of 2024, and future updates will include edits to the contact information as needed. For the most up-to-date contact information, you can visit the Family Empowerment Center website through the links that are added to the chat. So as you notice, the procedural safeguards include statute, federal regulations, and education code, and our session is based on federal, state, and special education law, including the Individual with Disability Education Act, or IDEA. I want to point out that our session today, again, is not intended for legal advice, but instead it focuses on understanding the role of procedural safeguards in supporting the rights of students and families. So why do procedural safeguards matter? Well, procedural safeguards are more than just legal requirements. They're one part of the foundation of collaboration between families and schools related to special education supports and services. Procedural safeguards are essential because they protect the rights of students with disabilities and ensure parents are full partners in the educational process and have the right to be involved in every step of their child's education. That their voice is heard, the questions are answered, and that the child receives necessary supports. For educators and support staff, they offer structure and guidance and consistent framework when creating and implementing services and supports. They promote accountability and clear expectations, including important timelines. Awareness of the process and available supports can reduce and resolve conflicts and disputes. So when both parents and educators understand and respect these safeguards, it builds trust and can lead to better outcomes for students. So we're excited to welcome Raylan Nelson, longtime director of South Orange County SELPA, and Julie Macias, coordinator at West End SELPA, who will provide an overview presentation of parts of the procedural safeguards. And coming up, embedded throughout the presentation, we will hear from Elena Bramble, director, and Monica Toma from Rowell Family Empowerment Center, as they share a few areas frequently brought up by parents and some strategies that LEAs and parents might consider to address those areas. The information and approaches they will present are from Seeds of Partnership and many of the family empowerment centers across our state, highlighting experiences of parents and what parents have shared has been very helpful to them. So over to Julie, and Raylyn.
Thank you, Robin. I'm Raylyn Nelson, and I'm the director of the South Orange County SELPA. I think Dr. Heenan already mentioned this, but there are 3 segments of the procedural safeguards that we will be reviewing today. The first is parent participation. The second is consent, parent consent. And the third will be the assessment piece. And then when we have our part 2, which I believe is toward the end of May, we will talk about student discipline, resolving disagreements, and other resources. How are you doing, Julie?
You know what? I can't get it, so I'm just gonna wing it and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, I'm sure you'll do fine. You can advance to the next slide, please.
Okay, so what is IDEA? The Individuals with Disabilities Act is a federal law that requires school districts to provide a free, appropriate public education, or what we know as FAPE, to eligible children with disabilities. So FAPE, what does that mean? It means that special education and related services are to be provided as described in the IEP, or the Individualized Education Program, at no cost to you. The special education process begins with an assessment to determine whether your child is eligible for special education and related services, and then an IEP is developed. The IEP is reviewed annually to make an offer of the educational placement and special education services, which will be provided to your child. To provide FAPE, the IEP team is responsible for developing an IEP that can be reasonably calculated to ensure that your child makes progress appropriate in light of their unique circumstances. Next slide, please. Okay, next we're going to talk about parent participation. Next slide. So parent rights under IDEA. So as part of the development of your child's IEP, parents have protections under federal and state related to each of the following. So parent participation in the IEP process. You are an equal member of the IEP team. Schools must invite you to participate in meetings where your child's services, goals, and supports are discussed. Access to your child's educational records. You have the right to review your child's records, including evaluations, IEPs, report cards, and disciplinary records. You may also request copies or ask for corrections if needed. Parental consent to the offer of special education and related services in the IEP. The school must get your written permission before assessing your child. Assessments must be individualized, use non-discriminatory tools, and be done in your child's primary language whenever possible. Parent notification of proposed actions or changes related to assessment or special education program. You must give written notice, and what was referred to as prior written notice, whenever the school proposes or refuses to change your child's eligibility, evaluation, placement, or services. School discipline. Students with disabilities have additional protections in discipline. Schools must consider if the child's behavior is related to the disability before changing placement for more than 10 consecutive days due to disciplinary actions. And finally, resolving disagreements regarding your child's special education program. You have several options, including IEP team meetings, facilitated IEPs, mediation, filing a state complaint, or due process hearings. The goal is always to work together in the best interest of your child. We will provide more information about these things when we continue to part 2 next month.
I'd like to elaborate on a couple of these items while we're on this slide. So parent participation in the IEP process. There are several options for participation. We love to see our parents in person at meetings, but sometimes that's not possible. So we would welcome parents participating via phone or via the Zoom or Google Meets process, whatever is most accessible to the parent. So don't hesitate to ask your team if you are not able to attend the meeting in person. Also, there are options for consent to an IEP. Parents do not always agree on the entirety of the IEP offer. So we do offer another option. If there are some pieces of the IEP that you are in agreement with, you can offer partial consent to the IEP. And if you have issues with all areas of the IEP, of course, you can say you do not consent and request for another IEP meeting or request other options, which we will discuss later in the process. And then I think that's it for now.
Thank you, Raylyn. Such important information. We want you to feel like you are an important member of the IEP team because you truly are. Next, we'll talk about the Notice of Procedural Safeguards. So under IDEA, the Notice of Procedural Safeguards must be provided to parents at least the following times. The first time your child is referred for special education assessment. So when the school district team would like to propose an assessment or an evaluation to determine eligibility for special education, you should receive a copy of your procedural safeguards. Each time you are given an assessment plan to evaluate your child, and then upon receipt of the first state or due process complaint in the school year, when a decision is made for the removal of a child with disabilities that constitutes a change of placement, and whenever you ask for a copy. If your child has been receiving special education services for a few years, chances are you have a pile of procedural safeguards somewhere, but if you misplace them, you can always ask your school for an additional copy. Next slide, please. Protections related to parental participation in the IEP process. So participation in IEP-related meetings. So parents must be given the opportunity to participate in any decision-making meeting regarding their child's special education program. This includes the child's eligibility, special education assessment, or educational placement, as well as all other matters relating to your child's FAPE. And as Raylyn mentioned, participation is so crucial because you are an important part of the IEP team. And so making the best effort to attend the meeting at what that's most convenient to you is always the goal. Audio recordings. The parent or guardian may electronically audio tape IEP team meetings with notice provided to the school district at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Program options. Parental participation in the IEP process also includes being informed about the availability of FAPE, including all program options. And so typically during the IEP meeting, what will happen is you will see a continuum of placement services and programs. And so this information will be shared to you during the IEP team meeting. Next slide, please. Access to educational records. Parents may inspect and review all of your child's educational records without unnecessary delay, including prior to a meeting about your child's IEP. The school district must provide parents access to records and copies if requested within 5 business days after the request has been made orally or in writing.
An alternative way to request records is to request them digitally. So if for some reason you are not able to access your school district office or you're too far away, you can ask them to make a digital copy of the records and email that digital copy to you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to the RAL Family Empowerment representative, Elena Bramble, for the next slide.
Hello. Yes, we are, both Monica and I are going to go over these slides. We're just going to share a little bit of what we have found works with, or what we have discovered over time, what parents have shared and what parents have shared that LEAs have done. So effective strategies and solutions. parent participation frequently shared by parents. They are not always aware of their right to participate or feel they have the opportunity for authentic and meaningful participation in the IEP. Some of the things that we have heard from parents that school districts have done that have been helpful is to share with parents ideas on how to participate in their child's education and provide basic overviews of the whole IEP process. The other things, there have been a few other things like offering interpreters or providing assessment reports ahead of time. And then encouraging parents to contact the family empowerment centers has also been very helpful. We just help the families kind of navigate that whole journey of the IEP. I'm going to let Monica talk about the parent approach.
Good morning, everyone. So glad to be with you today. I'm here today, first of all, because of my son. He was on an IEP until he was 19 years old. And so I learned just a bunch from him, from attending IEP meetings. And I wanted to share a little bit with you, plus here and listening to other parents. So when we're learning about the IEP process and parent rights, one of the areas that I like to coach and talk with parents about is talking about your child's strengths. And what are those areas? That's a very important part, and it can grow to be someday a job for them as they leave high school. So I like to talk about their strengths, and those are things that therapists can also use and teachers in working with your child at school. Also, the concerns can also be another area that will help guide the student for a possible goal in the IEP where there can be growth on that. Looking at familiarizing yourself with grade level content for your child to better support at home. One of the areas that I think about are the goals, that there's standardized based and academic standards regarding your goals. And are they, a question to be asking, are they making meaningful progress? And then asking about the progress reports that is toward the back of the IEP that talks about when you'll be receiving those to see if they're making meaningful progress on their IEP goals. Write down ideas, questions, and concerns ahead of the meeting to share with the team. What I often did as a parent, I would have my son's IEP and I would write down my questions off to the side and create kind of an outline that I could take to the meeting to get clarifying questions answered, to express my concerns. Also to talk about the praises that my son was experiencing in that educational setting. Participate in trainings and workshops provided by the school district related to special education. Locally here in Shasta County, we have our SELPA, Special Education Local Plan Area, the Community Advisory Committee, where they offer trainings for parents. And that's just a great way to get involved and meet with other parents on that. Accessing the Parent Center in the region for support information and workshops. Here locally at our Family Empowerment Center, we offer trainings. We offer the IEP training that we can provide the trainings to parents through a monthly training, we have recorded a training where they can watch it at their leisure, or we do our best to meet with them around their schedule because we know how busy lives can be for them. If disagreements arise, learn about options by contacting the local education agency, the SELPA, the California Department of Ed. We encourage our parents to start at the lowest level and work their way up as appropriate. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that information, very helpful. All right, we're going to move on to consent. So protections related to parental consent to special education. Parents may refer their child for special education services by requesting a special education assessment. Written consent is required before initial testing, Parents must give informed written consent before their child's first special education assessment can proceed. 15 days to decide on an assessment plan. So once a referral for an assessment is made, parents will be sent an assessment plan for their review and signature. The parent has at least 15 days from the receipt of the proposed assessment plan to arrive at a decision regarding assessment. The assessment may begin immediately upon receipt of consent and must be completed and an IEP developed within 60 days of parental consent to the assessment plan. District may seek due process if no consent is given. So if you do not provide consent for reevaluation or fail to respond to a request to provide consent, the school district may pursue due process for reevaluation by utilizing due process procedures. Reasonable measures to obtain consent. So the district must provide and document reasonable measures to obtain your consent.
And what that sometimes looks like is we may call you, we may send you an email, we may ask the school site staff to have you call us. So we must make multiple attempts to try to reach the parent for consent. Thanks, Julie.
Next slide. Protections related to parental consent to special education services. So parents must give informed written consent before your school district can provide your child with special education and related services. If parents refuse to consent to the initiation of services, the school district must not provide special education and related services and shall not seek to provide services through due process procedures. Partial consent. If parents consent in writing to the provision of special education and related services, but do not consent to all parts of the IEP, the components of the program to which you have consented must be implemented without delay. So I think Raylyn touched on this a bit earlier. So if you consent to parts of the IEP, but not to all parts of the IEP, the parts that you do agree to must be implemented without delay. If the school district determines that the proposed special education program component to which you do not consent is necessary in order to provide FAPE to your child, the due process hearing must be initiated.
Thank you, Julie.
Next slide, please. If at any time the parent of a child revokes consent in writing for the continued provision of special education and related services, the public agency may not continue to provide special education and related services to the child, but must provide prior written notice before ceasing such services. So you will receive a prior written notice indicating that that services will no longer be provided. The district cannot use the due process to override revocation of services. The district is not liable for failure to provide FAPE after revocation, and no need to hold an IEP meeting or develop a new IEP if services are revoked.
So when a parent offers or requests a revocation, we always try to contact the parent to ensure that they understand what this means. Because not only does an IEP provide supports and services, but it also provides protections under law. So before we send that prior written notice, we typically reach out to make sure that the parent understands all aspects of the revocation. Thanks, Julie.
Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to RAL Family Empowerment for the next slide.
Okay, so some of the areas that families have shared with us that are difficult for them is that they are not always clear on what free appropriate public education or FAPE is, or what least restrictive environment or LRE means as it relates to their child's placement and services. And also they get a little confused on what they are consenting to and when or how or if they should consent. So a few things that we have heard helped from the districts or from the LEAs, and the approach that they might take is to ensure that there is time allocated to explain special education and related terminology and acronyms. As you know, we're alphabet soup in education. So taking the time to help the parents understand that is super useful. Offer an explanation of what their consent means, like why would I want to consent to this, and what does it do for me or my child? Consider explanations in a variety of methods to meet the parents' learning styles. Sometimes listing things is better. Giving that consent in a way that, or that information in a way that explains, I guess just check for understanding is the best way to say it. And then if there's issues with consent, or you're finding that the parent is just not connecting, giving them more information about a parent mentor and connect them to the LEA ombudsman if that seems to be appropriate in that situation. And Monica.
Thank you. So when we're looking at parent approach or consideration, learning about the IEP process and parent rights, I have found one of the best way for parent participation and learning is going again back to the IEP and creating their questions. Some of the questions can be, well, what does FAPE mean? And getting that explanation from them. Asking questions of the IEP school district staff about the assessment, services, and placements. Some of the questions, and this could be, what is the timeline of the assessment? Who will be assessing my child? How will the services work for my child? If it's a group, how many children are in the group? So getting to the specifics of what will be offered to your child. Attending, access the community advisory committee in the region and local education agency family engagement support. Being a part of the CAC is a great way to build relationships in your area. I had the wonderful opportunity to be a part of the community advisory committee years ago. It was a 2-year commitment, and I learned so much about education, about talking to other parents and their experiences. In our case, the SELPA director attended, so I got to meet the SELPA director. And it just gave me a different perspective and helped enhance my understanding of special education in our local area. Research local and online resources to become familiar with services and supports offered through the IEP process. There's some great evidence-based vetted resources that we can provide to families in looking at specific areas that they're asking questions about. So, but they're there for them too. And then accessing the Parent Center in the region for support information about informed decision-making in the development of the IEP. So finding out all the trainings that are offered in your area. I've seen many with them, and they're just very great and very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica, and I appreciate your appreciation for the CAC. It is a wonderful group to be a part of. I sit in as a member of part of our SELPA, and it is sometimes difficult to get district representative or parent representatives from our district. So if it's something you're interested in, those of you who are participating in today's meeting, I highly recommend you get involved. It's a wonderful committee to be a part of. All right, our last topic for the day is on assessments. So let's move on to protections related to special education assessment. So areas of assessment. Parents have the right to have their child assessed in all areas of suspected disability. Assessment materials. Materials and procedures used for assessment and placement must not be racially, culturally, or sexually discriminatory. Assessment language. Assessment materials must be provided and the test administered in your child's native language or mode of communication. and in the form most likely to yield accurate information on what the child knows and can do academically, developmentally, and functionally, unless it is clearly unfeasible to provide and administer. And lastly, eligibility criteria. No single measure can be used as the sole criterion for determining eligibility for special education, meaning that not one assessment can be used to determine special education eligibility. So it will be a combination of multiple assessments.
So I just have one thing to say about this in the areas of suspected disability. So typically when a school psychologist or an SST team decide that they're going to put an assessment plan together, they interview parents to get information about what the parents suspect is happening, but they also get feedback from the teaching staff and any other adults that might work with that student, including outside providers. So sometimes that's why it takes us 15 days to put that assessment plan together. We try to be really thorough in looking at all potential areas that impact a student's ability to learn. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. Independent educational evaluations. So if parents disagree with the results of the assessment conducted by the school district, you have the right to ask for an independent educational evaluation, or what is termed as an IEE. You may have heard this term before. This evaluation can be for your child from a person qualified to conduct the assessment at the public's expense. The parent is entitled to only one IEE at the public expense each time the public agency conducts an evaluation with which the parent disagrees. The school district must respond to the parent's request for an IEE. The district must approve and provide IEE information or file for due process to defend their own evaluation. So the evaluation conducted by the school district. The IEP team must consider independent evaluation results. So when the results from the IEE are completed, the IEP team will come together to review and consider the results of the independent evaluation. An individual conducting an IEE must be allowed to observe your child in the classroom. If the school district proposes a new school setting for your child and an independent evaluation assessment is being conducted, the independent evaluation assessor must be allowed to first observe the proposed new setting.
And I only have one thing to say. An IEE is can be requested only if the district has already had an opportunity to assess in that area of need. Thank you,
Thank you
Julie.
for that clarification. Yes, thank you. All right, parental notification of proposed assessments or changes to the educational program. Parents must be provided prior written notice when the school district proposes or refuses to initiate changes related to their child's eligibility, assessments, placement, and the offer of FAPE, free appropriate public education. The school district must inform you about proposed evaluations of your child in a written notice or assessment plan within 15 days of your written request for evaluation. So if you submit a written request for evaluation, the school district must provide written notice within 15 days of receiving the request. The notice must be understandable and in your native language or other mode of communication unless it is clearly not feasible to do so.
I don't have anything to add to that slide.
All right, prior written notice requirements. The notice must be given when the school district proposes or refuses to initiate change in eligibility, assessment, or educational placement for your child for the provision of FAPE. A description of the actions proposed or refused by the school district. So we'll have a description of what the actions or proposed changes will be. An explanation of why the action was proposed or refused. A description of each assessment procedure, record, or report the agency used as a basis for the action proposed or refused. A statement that parents of a child with disabilities have protection under the procedural safeguards. sources for the parents to contact to obtain assistance in understanding their procedural safeguards, a description of other options that the IEP team considered and the reasons those options were rejected, and finally, a description of any other factors relevant to the action proposed or refused in the prior written notice.
And all I will say about this prior written notice is that it is a legal letter and it is not always super user-friendly. So I encourage parents to reach out if they have questions about the letter. It is formatted in a particular way to follow education code. And so I know that sometimes parents are overwhelmed by this, and I would encourage you to reach out and ask questions or ask for parts of it to be explained if it is not clear to you. Your district staff are happy to answer those questions.
Absolutely. We want to connect with you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Julie.
So I'm going to turn it over to the Rao Family Empowerment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so some frequently shared questions that we have by parents are that they are not always fully aware of their options when they disagree with the school district's assessment or evaluation, including their right to request an IEE or an independent educational evaluation. So some of the things that have come up that are helpful for districts to do or staff to do are to ensure that the evaluators are trained and knowledgeable in best practices. Host sessions or workshops to explain the evaluation process, including independent evaluations, and the options, and outline the parents' rights. This is something that we also do, but we find it, our parents tell us a lot that this is very helpful. And since it's so much information, it doesn't matter how many times they get it repeated to them, it's always helpful. So that's good. An explanation, explain the evaluation process in plain language. Again, we talk in alphabet soup where education is concerned. And so making sure that it's put in parent-friendly language is so important. We don't think about the education speak that we use. It becomes very, very normal to us. So using that plain language or interpreting it into their primary language is always very helpful. And then share the process of your LEA's disagreement, complaints, or alternative dispute process. Again, parents don't understand that they have a voice, and so letting them know that here are other ways. And thank you, Raylyn, for explaining that they can ask questions and that you guys appreciate the questions. So that's always good. To also let them know, please let us know when you don't understand. Okay, Monica.
Thank you. So going on that same theme of questions, around asking questions of the school district, some of the questions that we can look at are, when can I request an IEE? Parents aren't always clear of when that can happen. What is the timeline for the process? And who conducts the IEE? Learning about how to participate in that evaluation process. For the parent, noting the areas of educational concern and writing those down can be helpful. Carefully reading through the assessment plan when they receive that, and making sure that they understand all the areas that the school will be assessing their child. Explore key terms to help understand what the evaluation results mean. At Rao Family Empowerment, we do teach a class on understanding your child's evaluation. That can be helpful for families, and it's a basic training on that. Knowing the difference between IEE at public expense and private expense. And this is talking with your IEP team to clarify those areas. And then if there's disagreements that arise, learning about those options by contacting the LEA, the SELPA, and the CDE. Again, we encourage you to start with your IEP team and work that way first. And then accessing the Parent Center. in your region for more information and training. Most of us offer a few trainings, so finding out what those are to help support your understanding and your learning, walking with your child in an IEP. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica and Elena. Okay. Now, lastly, we're going to just take a few moments to give you some resources. So where can parents get more help? Contact your school district or SELPA for questions about education, rights, and safeguards. You can get additional support from the California Department of Education or CDE. The Family Empowerment Centers. So find your local family empowerment centers, and there's a link to find which will provide a list of all the family empowerment centers. And then parent training and information centers. And there's a link there that will help you to find resources. These groups offer resources, training, and guidance for families of students with disabilities. Next slide, please. I want to thank Raylyn with South Orange County SELPA, the Seeds of Partnership, RAL Family Empowerment, and of course, all of you for being here and taking time out of your day to learn about the procedural safeguards and the rights you have as a parent with a child with special needs. So thank you so much for being here. I think we hit it is 12 o'clock on the dot. So I think we wrapped up in an hour. So thank you all so much. And I'll turn it over to Robin.
Thank you so much. So we hope that you will join us May 22nd for Procedural Safeguards Part 2, where we will focus on discipline and resolving disagreements. If you have not already signed up for that, you can find all registration links in our webinar and video page at this QR code of the link in the chat. And in closing, we do have a feedback survey. We would want to hear from you about your family school partnership stories. What's working well? What isn't? What sessions or topics we can lift up? What would be helpful to you? We have a QR code here and have a small bit.ly link as well, and encourage you to share with us your thoughts. And on behalf of the California Department of Education and Dr. Rachel Heenan, Seeds of Partnership, and the Sacramento County Office of Education, we want to acknowledge and thank Dr. Scott Turner, East San Gabriel SELPA, Raylyn Nelson, Director of South Orange County SELPA, Julie Macias, Coordinator of West End SELPA, as well as Ricky Eliassi, Chief Administrative Officer for West End SELPA, the RAL Family Empowerment Center, Director Elena Bramble, and Consultant Monica Toma. And a special thanks to Muna Rod from the Parents Helping Parents, and also the FEC partners that contributed to this session. We thank you all for joining us and being a part of learning together and strengthening partnerships.